I started June past summer 1991.
And that this not just drop off. So we're not quite standing still, but we still have a long way to go, Alex.
In fact, the experiences that I had growing up,
there is a renaissance going on, but we have to control it. And if we don't...
In Atlanta,
so right now it's a great...
Yeah, learn how to get better before you worry about getting over.
I think that the artist really has to be true to himself.
Welcome to a dialogue with black filmmakers. And now, here's our host, Alex Haley.
They say everything he touches turns to gold. And if not to gold, then platinum. Q, as he is called, is simply a musical genius. Jones has produced the biggest selling album of all time, Michael Jackson's Thriller, which was also the biggest selling single of the 80s. In his 40-plus years in entertainment, Quincy Jones has won every award imaginable, and he has worked with everybody who is anybody in music. Though Jones is best known for scoring films, for his work with pop and jazz artists, he now is increasingly involved in producing television and film. We pulled Jones away from presiding over his entertainment corporation to ask him about his migration into motion pictures. Why is Q going into film after all these years? Well, brother, here we sit.
Here we are, Alex.
I was just sitting thinking, I can't remember the exact date, the year even, when we met, but I remember I was here in town in Los Angeles for some reason, and I heard that you were giving a party, and it was the kind of party where everybody went to your house without invitation.
Jean Genet, the Blacks.
Is that what that was?
I remember Roscoe Lee and Cicely were there.
And I sat in there, I'm a country boy, and I'm sitting there seeing stars, and my God. And Nancy Wilson walked in, and then she walked out, and then you came in. I was
some
by
more
myself.
country people.
Yeah, that's right. And you asked me what was my name and what was I doing, and I told you about Roots. And we got to talking, and you said, let's get together, and we did. And so here we are, all these years later.
But Alex, I had no idea what you were really up to that time.
No.
I had just a small inkling, but I had no idea what you were up to.
Well, I didn't either, to tell you the truth. But I just, as you know, and I think we both treasure that time because we have endured dear friends ever since, and it's beautiful.
And I treasure it too, Alex.
Yeah. Well, you know, now you're at, I guess you say the pinnacle of your career in music, and now you're going into films. And why, I guess I could ask you, why are you going in the film direction? Does it pull you or what?
Well, I've wanted to, since I was 15, I wanted to write, for 14 and 15, I wanted to write movie scores, and I didn't think it was possible because I used to play hooky from school in Seattle and go to these 11-cent theaters and listen to all the soundtracks, and I could almost tell from each studio what was the editorial policy of Lionel Newman out at, or Alfred Newman at 20th Century Fox, and Stanley Chase at Republic, and Victor Young at the Paramount. I could just feel the influence of these powerful composers, you know. And then I used to see, I used to recognize Benny Carter's music sometimes, but I didn't see his name. And everybody had long names in Amphitheatroff, you know, long names, and I didn't see many Joneses and Smiths around there, so it wasn't too much to encourage me really to feel like you'd ever get a shot at doing it. But I mean, I really loved it. That was my real passion even before records. And and I guess it was 1963, 61 when Sidney Lumet called me and asked me to do to look at the pawnbroker, and I'd done a little Swedish film before that, and I didn't know what I was doing, and got into the scoring aspect of it, and like in music, you get a chance to almost serve an apprenticeship because you work with the best directors in the world, and you're in the editing room, you're in the dubbing room, and you get a chance to experience everything, but you're not really on the line, and that leaves you a little freer to be a little bit more observant. And I've always wanted to get involved in making film. I mean, really call the shots, because I've worked on some great films. I worked on some turkeys as a composer, and I guess the bug started to bite about 6 or 7 years ago, and I had a couple of offers, but now with this multimedia company with Time Warner, I think it's best to work for yourself, really. And so it does. It's like a passion. I've got to try it before I leave here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in your younger background, another thing, there's a lady, I just saw her a few weeks ago in Seattle, short, kind of light skinned, and she told me she talks with you frequently. In fact, it was she who told me you'd gone to the Caribbean. She said she knew you from when you were about 10.
Freddie Mae Gautier.
That's her.
She's
yeah,
incredible.
that's right.
That's my baby.
Yeah, that's right. Well, she loves you to the nth degree, needless to say.
She brings chitlins down to me all the time. I can't believe it. She comes down, I don't care where I go in the world, she comes down in a mink coat and a bag with 10 pounds of rubber bands.
She has known you for some time.
She's beautiful.
When you are scoring a movie soundtrack, do you like to watch the movie first and then do it, or to do it independently of it, just knowing the idea of the film? Well,
ideally, the way time schedules work out, you know, you first, the time you see it is a rough cut from with the director and probably a music editor. But I like to look at the script sometimes and just get an idea, because the execution is what's really important, you know. What kind of lenses, you know, what kind of a tone scheme, a blueprint they're going to use for the picture, you know, just style. And that style talks back to you, because there's really no rules for the psychology of scoring films, except stay out of the way of the dialogue. And basically you're dealing with, musically, you're dealing with two elements, and that's tension and release. You either want to get them up tight, you know, or relax the audience. And that's the major role that music plays in various forms of it.
Nearly put you, quote, in the grave. Why was that film so traumatic, working on it?
Well, for many reasons. Number one, trying to find a way to make a epistolary novel, a Nobel Prize-winning novel, I might add, by Alice Walker, into a narrative script. To change it to a narrative script was a challenge, and so we had to find the right writer, and it took about 11 months to really get Spielberg to say, okay, I'm really going to do it. And I guess it was the idea that I just abandoned everything that I ever done before musically, and I just totally committed to that picture, and we started from the blank page with this great book, and went through the whole process of what it takes to make a film from start to scratch, and to start to end around that. What I didn't realize, because Spielberg said we're going to start June 5th and finish by Christmas, I didn't realize that we were trying to perform a miracle, because it should have been an 18-month schedule. And we started shooting interiors June 5th until Stephen's baby was born at Universal. We started shooting it until his baby was born. The next day after his baby was born, we got on a plane and went to North Carolina, 90-degree weather and cottonmouth water moccasins and mosquitoes, and that's when it really dug down. And then the picture became something else. It took its own life and just went its own. Because I remember asking Stephen once, what scope are you looking at? And he mentioned something like To Kill a Mockingbird, which is interiors and everything else. And by the time it was finished, it became more like a Gone with the Wind kind of a proportion. And it took its toll on everybody, because it kept growing. It kept growing, and just in scope and size, and finding the people were interesting for the story. And fortunately, I finally found, I wanted the people to belong to Alice Walker and to that whole story. And you could just smell Nellie and Sophia and everybody. So we found Oprah, We found Whoopi, and I think they added a lot to the personality of what the film was about.
Indeed, absolutely.
And it was just one obstacle after another, and then everybody finished shooting. It was the first time co-producing a film, and everybody else is ready to go off and get a tan someplace. They said, "Wait a minute,
Yeah.
what about the music?" I said,
Yeah,
"Wait, I'm tired too."
Yeah.
And we had about 6 weeks to come up with an hour, 54 minutes of music, you know, with big orchestras and everything else. And so, by that time, I wasn't sleeping much.
Yeah, you couldn't have been.
And was physically getting in bad shape. You know,
Yeah.
was going through a divorce,
Yeah.
a lot of things. It was
That's right.
a heavy experience. And so we turned the picture in the 22nd of November. We looked at the answer print with Stephen and turned it in.
Yeah. You are executive producer of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
How did it come about?
Yeah.
We were in the middle of a session, a meeting with Brandon Tartikoff, talking about 3 or 4 things. At the end of the meeting, a friend of mine who's the senior vice president of A&R at Warner Brothers Black Music, Benny Medina, he had told me about this story that was loosely based on his own life story of moving from the ghetto to Beverly Hills, you know, staying in a garage, you know. But it was a Jewish family, and it was changed after that to a black family. Then it was a great idea, fish out of water story, getting in trouble with a single, with a mother that couldn't handle him in Philadelphia, sent him out to her sister in Bel Air, you know, with a affluent neighborhood. So it's natural conflict. And we were there. At the last 8-minute pitch, and Warren Littlefield and Brandon Tartikoff said, "Let's go." And 10 weeks later, we were ready to go on the air.
Boy, you moved.
10
weeks?
That was really quick, yeah. I mean, network
weeks.
had no time for paralysis from analysis.
No, absolutely not.
Just moved.
What specifically does an executive producer do? What's your responsibility?
Well, in this particular situation, if you have a great showrunner, your basic responsibility is to just get the motors going to get that baby on, to really get it on, and watch the scripts and so forth, and guest artists. We've got a lady named Winifred Ramon. Winifred, I'm talking about her brother, Winifred Hervey Stallworth, and she is fantastic. She did the Golden Girls and Different World, and she's new this year, but she's really powerful. And they've got an unbelievable machine with you've got 8 writers, and I think the best cast you could ask for. It's like an ensemble cast. So this show, under the right general, it really runs itself, you know. I mean, it's the dream, your dream situation. It's the best case scenario.
Dialogue with Black filmmakers now continues.
What do you look for when you consider buying a story or a script to make a film?
I guess something that is about interesting people doing interesting things. Something that you know, a slice of life is very boring. Movies can't be just like life, because, you know, the process of life is boring. It can be inspired by that, but it has to be put in a context, a presentation that imitates life. You know, it's imitating behavior of life and so forth. So I look for a lot of richness in the story. You know, it's something that turns me on. I mean, I don't know what other criterion to use. It's like with a record. When I make a record, we can have a record out there that sold 40 million records, but I wouldn't know how to please 4 people, really, if I had to make a record and say, make this for the people. You know, so if you make something that really turns you on and you get goosebumps, Alex, you know, and your hair rises and you get all excited about it, I mean, that passion is what keeps you going, and that passion is what keeps you interested in a project, because at one point, if it isn't passion within you, you lose interest, and you get bored with it. You want to get onto something else. So I get something that can keep my interest as long as it takes to make it great. And it can be of any genre, you know, from Pushkin to whatever, you know, a street picture. You know, which you know, I don't have any hang-ups about genres at all, because I feel as eclectic dramatically as I do musically.
That's right.
So it's whatever turns you on, really, and really touches you, makes you cry or feel or laugh or fearful.
Now here recently, you have, I've read it, that you were going to do a picture about J. Edgar Hoover.
Right.
You and Coppola?
Right.
Is that right?
Right. Francis is going to direct and be co-executive producer. And it's a book, the screenplay will be based on Kurt Gentry's book that was just in the New York Times bestseller.
I see.
We had the rights to it before it was released, called J. Edgar Hoover. And it's, to me, it's a way to really reveal to the public the true mechanism behind the highest power in America. Because this man this man was, if you looked over every president's shoulder, from 1913 on, he was right there behind him. He was involved in everything, all the assassinations, you know, the Elliot Ness, Lindbergh, you name it. He was right there, with had all the information, and in a way manipulated some of the things.
Awesome power.
Incredible. And it fascinates me that because it's Oliver Stone's just come with his version of the Garrison version of JFK, you know, which holds as much water as the Warren Commission's report does, so everybody can take that shot. And one thing about Hoover, you don't have to make anything up.
No. You couldn't make up more
history and headlines, you know.
That's right. And the thing about it is, that's really a case where truth is stronger than fiction.
Absolutely.
Or what happened with him.
Absolutely.
It really is. Yeah. You don't, it's obviously too early to ask you who you think or would like to play him.
Well, a lot of people, almost everybody has come forward, you know, so I don't think we're going to have any problem with casting it at all.
No, I don't think you will either.
We have the Barber brothers now, the two brothers that worked on Noriega for Oliver Stone. You know, they're in the process of the screenplay now.
Michael Jackson has expressed an interest in doing a film. Have you two, in view of you having worked earlier together, any plans to work together in that area?
Over the years, we've talked about it, but I guess lately, you know, he's been so busy, and I've certainly been busy. I mean, when you get to be a CEO of a company, I didn't know what that word meant before, those initials, but I know now. And it means a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of time and energy and concentration and imagination, everything. It
drains you, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you really have to pace yourself differently because, you know, Alex, usually we work in a cyclical type fashion. You get to work on a book, and I know what you do. You hit that freighter, and you go on, and you put your head down, and you come back after it's over, and then you rest up a little bit, and you start on another project. But with this company in multimedia, we're involved in magazines and acquisitions of radio stations, television stations, cable, movies, television, everything.
Quincy, I do, and everybody who knows you well, worries about the way you drive, you know, nonstop. And it's just a matter of concerning about you physically because we love you. And I know you concerned likewise because you have at times told me about pressure times. What do you do? Where do you go when you know you have to relax?
Relax?
Yeah. What is that?
With my loved ones and my friends, just like I'm going to do tonight when you bring out that shredded cabbage.
Yeah.
And those short ribs. Okay. That's the height.
I look forward.
Ultimate relaxation for me, Alex.
Well, that's beautiful.
With a close friend I love as much as you and some other friends.
Well, that's beautiful.
And hit that table and those spots.
That'll be fun for us.
It can't get any better than that.
Now, let me ask you, as our wind-up question, what would you tell, or what do you tell young people who come up to you and say they want to get into what you are doing or some facet of what you're doing, and they turn to you as leader, role model? What do you say? Basics.
For everybody that's made it, I'm sure that there's another story about how they got started. I always say, learn how to get better before you worry about getting over. Because I think that there's a timetable now and everybody wants to do it quick and everything else, and without preparation.
Push button.
And that's that old story about opportunity and preparation. Sometimes you get an opportunity and you're not ready. You don't really have an opportunity because it's going to be a tragedy. And I think it's important that young people find ways that we can help them find steps of victory, because every time they get a step of victory, they have more confidence to go forward rather than retreat out of fear.
Oscar Wilde once said that mediocrity recognizes only itself, but talent recognizes genius. Over the years, Quincy Jones has demonstrated not only the talent to recognize his own genius, but to bring out the genius in others. This has been Dialogue with Black Filmmakers. I'm Alex Haley, and we thank you for joining us.
Baby.